So let's stick with the question, what will the digital future look like? Over the last years, we have heard all kinds of predictions on a spectrum from robots taking over and displacing us to AI and machine learning applications being decades away from coming to fruition and not even having any real impact for a while. But which one is it? Humans versus machines, the second machine age and the next big thing, that's the title of our upcoming panel. Let's examine what our digitally enabled work and life holds for us. So, for the next 30 minutes, I have the pleasure of having 4 experts here on this panel with me. In the studio, Harald Mahrer, President of the Federal Economic Chamber, Dorothee Ritz, General Manager of Microsoft in Austria. Before joining Microsoft in Austria, she led the Microsoft International Business Strategy for the President of Microsoft International. Joining us from Boston, Andrew McAfee. Hello and welcome. Andrew McAfee is the co-director of the IDE, MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy, and a principal research scientist at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And joining us from Bregenz in Vorarlberg, Austria, Hubert Rhomberg. He is Managing Director of Rhomberg Holding Group and in charge of the international active Rhomberg Group, which is a leader in sustainable construction and mobility, has its headquarters in Bregenz and employs over 3,000 people worldwide. I'm saying hello and welcome to all 4 of you. Let's start with Andrew McAfee first. We have agreed on addressing each other by our first names, just to give you that information. Andrew, you have written best-selling books about the effects of digital transformation on our lives and businesses. Though many new jobs will be created, you argued for the need to get better with retraining and reskilling people in order to move from the old to the new, since of course plenty of jobs will be displaced by the likes of automation, robotics and AI. In your most recent book, More from Less, however, you interestingly have focused on a fairly different aspect. The book makes the provocative argument that 2 of the most important forces responsible for the change are capitalism and tech progress, which in the past have combined and caused us to take more and more from the planet over time. Now, those 2 are combining and letting us get more from less. So, what has changed?
The main thing that changed is that we humans invented, I believe, the most powerful toolkit we've ever invented to help us accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And that's the digital toolkit that's been around for more than half a century, but continues to improve, continues to accelerate, and continues to spread around the world to the point that billions of people now around the world have essentially a supercomputer in their pocket, a supercomputer by the standards of a generation ago. Now, that's a really important development. And the reason I decided to write my most recent book, More from Less, was because I became aware of this very bizarre, really encouraging turning point that you alluded to, which is that we have finally figured out how to grow an economy, how to grow our prosperity, while taking less from the planet. And I mean less fertilizer, fewer minerals, chopping down fewer trees, clearing fewer acres for cropland, taking less fossil fuel from the planet without having to turn our back on prosperity or a higher standard of living. So I think that's kind of an important turning point, and I wanted to document it and help understand why it happened.
Mm-hmm. Sustainability is, of course, also an important issue for Hubert Rhomberg. Hubert, the construction industry is considered one of the largest causes for climate change. You are active in that field. How do you see the importance of sustainability, of resourcefulness, also of dematerialization maybe in that field? And what about the importance of new forms of mobility? I mean, you're also in railway.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, we are the very old economy here. We're always talking about new economy. This is very old economy, the biggest industry in the world with $85 trillion. And we eat up 40% we produce 40% of carbon emissions and 35% of global waste. So this is really a problem because we have this inefficient project management. We spend so much on mistakes. So this whole industry is in a very old setup still. Now, how can we transform that? Because we have to go carbon neutral to 2050. So with a very fragmented industry, it's this 85 trillion. We have 3 million contractors just in Europe. And the average company has 25 employees, just imagine. So this is a huge challenge, how we change such a big industry and change that. And I think technology and data is helping us and giving the big push now. Because we bring transparency into intransparent structures and processes in the past. It's with the BIM, with the digital twin we have, with the project, even if it's infrastructure projects or buildings, we have all the information of all the material which is in the building. Every logistic step we have, we can simulate in advance. And that's how we can have now a real big impact with this technology and data, and certainly artificial intelligence, which supports this process. So I think this will be a big step in sustainability in construction, will be done by the digital age now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Technological progress and digital transformation, those can of course bring more prosperity, but another major change is concentration. Wealth and income are becoming more and more concentrated in certain countries, also in certain regions. I mean, I'm thinking of the northern global hemisphere, and also in certain regions like tech hubs such as Silicon Valley. Capitalism and tech progress are combining to let us do more with less, what we just heard from Andrew McAfee. But this also means that more of the spoils of capitalism are going to fewer regions, fewer companies, and fewer people in the end. And all of this could lead to more inequality in an increasingly interconnected world. Others might argue, however, that globalization is a leveling factor in the economic playing field. So we have those two opposing points of view. So which one is it, flat or spiky? If we say the world is spiky, Harald, what is Austria doing to continue being a spike in a digitally transformed world?
I would like to add to Andrew and Hubert talking about digitization. I do think we really live in enormously disruptive times, in times of enormous change. After the invention of the letterpress, more than 500 years ago, I do think this is the second biggest game changer, and maybe it is the even bigger one. You know, the one 500 years back brought education, brought us the Enlightenment, sensational scientific findings for the last 150 years, but now digitization is changing everything again, and much faster. And change started in specific industries and is now coming to very, as Hubert said, traditional, old-fashioned industries like the construction industry as well. But beside the fact that we always look at the industries or the regions, I would like to draw your attention to the individual level. I would ask the question, because it's about skills and characteristics and talents, where should we add there, and what could we do as a country or as a political system or a society to embrace these possibilities rather than run away from them, to see them as chances rather than threats. And I would then focus on the education system. I would focus then on keeping the small ones being really curious, interested in the new, helping them taking risks. So somehow, what is currently lacking in Austria, improving entrepreneurial thinking, and especially fostering that in the education system, because in the end, it's all about keeping up creativity, resilience, and therefore making big new innovations possible to create an impact, maybe in business impact, but also impact for society and the whole globe. And I do think maybe we should more focus on the individual level. Therefore, we come immediately to the responsibility of the education system than rather talking about big policies on the economic level.
Mm-hmm. Another change is, of course, also greater disconnection. Relationships and bonds among people decrease over time due to the aforementioned regional concentration of economic activity, but also disconnection has grown, of course, because of COVID-19 and all the social distancing that's going on. Dorothee, Microsoft is one of the leading technology companies and a provider of digital platforms and communication tools. How is your company approaching this problem of sort of people disconnecting from each other? How can we stay connected during times of social distancing? And what do you predict will happen after the pandemic?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Microsoft, in principle, long before the crisis, of course, we were used to working remote, and we also had the technology infrastructure to work remote. So, in a sense, we were prepared, and that was really good because, kind of like on the first day last March, we needed to put thousands of companies and thousands of students in their homes and be able to work and to study. So the first thing that we needed to do as Microsoft employees was teach. Yeah, we needed to show the teachers how to use the tools. We needed to show the companies of how they actually could use it, because one is having the technical infrastructure, but the other thing is really like how can you really create the value? And so the longer the crisis is, the more this question of how do we connect, how do we co-create, how do we collaborate becomes more important. And so on the one hand, yes, there's always technological advances that enable that. So a good communication platform today tells you should have longer breaks, you should have shorter meetings, you should, there's even well-being included. But at the end of the day, it's really important to deal with empathy as well. And that's, how we also try to take our customers and partners along. Microsoft in itself had to onboard 25,000 new employees globally during the last pandemic. And I'm sure it's not different from Rhomberg or from what Andrew is seeing. So how do you make a new employee connected? How do you train him? How do you unbind him? How do you give him the purpose if he can't physically be together with his colleagues? That's really the thing. So besides of what Hubert outlined of what is kind of also the challenge and the way out of the crisis of, making yourself resilient, because if you basically put a lot of technology on a construction site, it also makes it more resilient because you can actually tell where the hammer is or a certain tool. And so, it becomes a safer place and a more productive and a better to operate place. But I think at the end, a lot comes down to do we make enough time as companies to really onboard our people and train them in the right way to use the technology, because a lot of the technology is there. I mean, Microsoft just launched a platform where you can basically work from very different places in a holographic way on digital twins together, and we could all be in three different states. Yeah, so technology is advancing, but how can we take the people along? People who are not tech savvy, that's the core thing. And I think that comes to the core change in leadership that we have to do going forward to be successful. Because it's all about being a real empathetic leader, spending much more time on caring, bringing people more on board, because technology is one thing. The next is how do you optimize your processes? And then how do you really bring the people along and change your company culture? So at the end of the day, really making sure that, the knowledge is not only in the heads of the people, but somehow documented, that people who work on different times are actually somehow connected, and that you really care and take them on board if they can't physically always come together. And don't get me wrong, I really want to get together with people. Yeah, and we will, 9 out of 10 leaders say, they will stay in a hybrid environment in whatever shape or form. So we have to evolve that, and I think that will be the key.
Mm-hmm. Humans versus machines, the second machine age and the next big thing. That's the topic of our panel discussion. I'm going back to Hubert Rhomberg in Bregenz. Which steps are you taking? We heard a lot about reskilling people. Which steps are you taking to reskill your workforce, to address changes in their jobs due to digital tech?
Well, actually, as I said before, it's so important that we reach the people, not just provide technology. And especially in our industry, we have to reach the construction workers, people who are not used to many digital stuff. And we think it works very well with use cases. We bring certain technology to the site and show what's going better in that way, and they really see it, feel it, and they adapt it, they accept it. That's how things work, and it's a very much human-to-human interface. We use technology to bring humans together. I just want to share one example, which is very important. We have a lot of use cases, and some together with Microsoft. And one is we have an XR mixed reality technology. We use simulation. So what we do is we take the BIM model, and our domain know-how is how to build the site, how to build like the railway, and then we go into this model virtually, and the experienced old guy is standing there with the goggles, and two young guys fresh in the company, they are in the same reality. And the experienced guy shows exactly how he's going to work and what's the know-how behind it. And we have that set on a gaming engine, So the whole program runs on a gaming engine. So the young guys, they know exactly how they understand immediately how things run. It's like COD playing a little bit, but they get the information through that channel. They don't look about paper or files, that's not working. But through that channel, with that technology, we combine our domain know-how, know-how to build, using technology, and bring the people together in that virtual space. This is one of the best experiences we had, because the older guy, the experience, is totally happy that he can share his know-how, which is not lost. And the young guys get all this information. So we should think about technology, taking all the experience we have and bringing it to the new world.
Mm-hmm. So you're really making use of the best of people's skills, the old and the new and the younger ones. Fascinating. Andrew, in Boston, is AI going to take the majority of our jobs? I mean, that's one of the kind of negative dystopic visions that a lot of people have. Which industries will be the first to go, and what should we focus on to retrain the workers in those industries?
Yeah, the short answer to your question is no. AI is not going to take all of the jobs anytime soon. And the way to think about it is to think, is there any shortage of work that needs to get done in the American economy or the Austrian economy? And the answer is obviously not. There's tons that we need to do. You can ask a second question, which is there any shortage of work that needs to get done that can only be done by a human being? And think about taking care of a group of very small children. Think about fixing a bridge. Think about repairing something that's broken in a school. I study technology for a living. I can assure you, we don't have technologies that can do those things right now. We don't have them on the drawing board. They're not in the laboratories yet. We are a long, long way away from automating all the work that needs to get done. Now, how we compensate people, how we train people, these are really fundamentally important questions, and they're going to become more important as we get more powerful technologies. But this notion that the AI and the robots are going to take all of the jobs, we need to do away with this. It's silly and it's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's reassuring. Dorothee, Ritz, Microsoft, maybe let's focus a little bit on the environmental aspect. Microsoft has been carbon neutral for about 10 years now and vows to be carbon negative by 2030. Would you agree with the notion mentioned earlier and in Andrew's book that recent technological advancements are good for the environment?
Yeah, we definitely need it. And so Microsoft has also committed to kind of take the entire carbon footprint from its founding out of the environment until 2050, not only its own, but all of its supply chain and its wherever it goes. And this is a little bit of like a moonshot mission, yeah, and we know that. So technology will definitely play a very important part of it. And it's like we have just also heard it of where you can optimize, where technology can help, and Andrew has brilliantly written and talked about it, of how to reduce water consumption, and then how we can make a lot of advances in green energy, but also how to recycle things at a certain place where it's actually needed in order to get a lot of the transport and all of this out. So there's huge of examples. So, but technology is only a piece that supports that change. And so what Microsoft also has done is they have just said, in order to support this, because we don't have the solution yet, and we are far away of having it, but we can't lose time, we are putting a 1 billion fund out in the world for innovation. So we as Microsoft will do our own innovation. We have platforms like, for Rhomberg or other customers where they can, where you can bring companies that want to become sustainable, very clever people who really have great ideas but don't have the data in order to create the solution. How can we bring them together? And so I think this is important for Austria as well. Austria is a country with lovely mountains where we really can focus on hydropower, water, and green energy. So my dream is definitely to nurture an environment where we can bring together companies like Microsoft with customers who really want to become sustainable, with all of that innovation that can be created here, and where we have the knowledge of startups or innovative companies in order to do that. And so that's why Microsoft kind of supports that cause, not only with technology, because at the end we need that clever people and data in their hand in order to really get there and get there fast.
Mm-hmm. Let's carry on. Let's focus. Or let's keep focusing on Austria's green tech businesses. What Dorothee Ritz has already talked about. What can we do to foster sustainability even more? I mean, every Friday we know that our children, thousands of children, are going to the streets protesting against climate change because they're afraid. They're afraid of the future, what the future might hold for them. How can we support them? How can we reassure them? How can we help battle climate change worldwide with Austrian solutions, Austrian excellence?
I would like to add to Dorothee and say Austria is already a global leader in green tech. Mm-hmm. And with that, I would like to make a pledge for R&D, science and technology, and all the innovators around, not only in Austria, but all around the globe. I'm a firm believer that it's better to spend billions on innovation than trillions on emission cuts. Mm-hmm. I would say we should pave the way for all the innovators out there. And as I said, I'm deeply convinced we can solve the global problems, address the SDGs with innovation, with technology, and not with, the raised finger, with the saying no, and therefore, shrinking people's possibilities. It's about, opening up the minds, yeah, mm-hmm. and letting the innovators do the job. We're doing this on a quite, I would say, top level in Austria, in green tech, but it's about partnering, collaboration all around the globe to solve this big global challenge. And as I said, I would pave the way for the innovators, give them much more money than they receive right now, like institutions like the MIT or the IST in Austria and others all around the globe, the Weizmann Institute, the Okinawa Institute. You have so much brilliant minds all around there, and they should solve the problem. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so less cutting back and more support for the innovators.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've heard a broad range of insights into what the effects of digital transformation might look like, and I would say it's, at least in my opinion, definitely more of a blessing than a curse. I would like to say thank you to all of the panelists. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.